what is going on? It's your boy RickyMoto. Welcome back to yet another video. So today's gonna be a little fun one. Today we're doing a little review on the full system Toce exhaust that I have installed on this Yamaha R7. I want to say it's been about a year or maybe more than a year now since I've had this exhaust, so hopefully I can give you guys some insight if you're, interested in getting one of your own. So this is my long-term review of the Toce exhaust. I'm gonna go through all the pros and cons, the things I like, the things I don't like. A lot of you guys actually asked me about exhaust options for the R7, what exhaust I recommend, because there is plenty of options out there. There's like Akrapovic, there's SC Project. I opted for the Toce exhaust for many reasons. So the first thing I want to talk about is the sound, because that is the most important part of an exhaust. That's why we get exhaust. So I opted for the full system rather than a slip-on because I wanted the maximum sound. I want it to be as loud as it can be. And so I opted for the full system, and I think it sounds pretty dang amazing. It's quite loud, but not overbearingly loud. In general, I feel like the R7 is not the loudest bike out there, and this is kind of like the loudest it'll ever get. It's not like screaming loud to the point where your ears are bleeding, but it is loud for a full system. Obviously compared to a slip-on, the slip-on is not going to be as loud, but I really do like the noise of it. I like the volume, I like the tone. The thing about the Toce exhaust specifically is that it has a very grunty and deep tone. A lot of the other exhaust options out there are a little bit more higher pitched, and they're a little bit more refined, where it has a more whiny, kind of sporty, like if you will. I mean, it's not a 600, so it's not going to sound like an R6 where it's very high pitched and kind of screaming at you. But the CP2 engine on the R7 is very grunty to start with. If you look at the MT-07, it has a very similar note where it's a little bit more on the grunty side. So all of the exhaust options are going to have somewhat of a similar sound just based on the engine configuration. But the Toce exhaust specifically that I really like, and which is one of the reasons why I bought it, is because of how raspy it is. This is the most sort of raw sounding, most like gurgly sort of raspy noise. And that's why I like the Toce exhaust. It's very like deep and very growly, and that's kind of the vibe that I get on the R7, styling. It's a very grunty bike. So I think the Toce exhaust pairs really, really well compared to the other options out there. Let me give it a few little baby revs. See, it's like very gurgly, very like... The only thing I will say is I wish it was a little bit louder, but I think this is kind of the loudest it'll get. And that's just because the CP2 engine is not really that high revving, so to speak. My R3 actually sounded a little bit louder in terms of volume. Obviously, the R3 doesn't have as nice of a tone. It was very hollow sounding. I'm not sure how loud the other exhaust options are for this bike, but I've ridden on a full system SC Project before on the R7, and it also kind of had a similar volume level. But other than that, it's still doable. It still is, a loud enough exhaust, I want to say. So yeah, if you are looking for volume, I would suggest getting the full system rather than a slip-on. So the next thing I want to talk about is performance. I'm going to quickly touch on this. Obviously, if you get an exhaust, you're going to get some performance gains because, for one, you're allowing better airflow, and also you're shedding a significant amount of weight. It's saved like maybe 20 pounds or so over the stock exhaust, and I gotta say it is definitely very noticeable because after I put the exhaust on the bike, it felt so much more nimble to ride. Now in terms of the power gains, horsepower wise, you're not really gonna see a performance increase until you get the bike tuned, and this bike is tuned. It's a custom tune from Baus Racing in New Jersey, and even the tune itself was pretty noticeable in terms of a power gain. I definitely felt like this bike has woken up. Pretty much sound is a check, volume kind of a check. I wish it was a little bit louder. Next up, I want to talk about the design. I love the way this thing looks. I haven't seen any exhaust out there that has this sort of razor dual tip exhaust setup over here, and I gotta say one of the main reasons why I actually purchased the Toce exhaust is because of the razor tip down here. It just looks so aggressive and so sleek. Most of the exhausts are kind of just like this one big cylinder pipe down here, and it doesn't really look all that special. It's very basic, I want to say. But the Toce exhaust, just I think style-wise, is so sick. It angles up a little bit higher, kind of following the body lines of the tail, and the dual tip looks really aggressive with this slash cut. And it is very like slim profile too. It's very close to the body of the bike, but it's not touching it. There is a gap still, so it won't burn your fairings or anything like that. And I gotta say, style is always subjective depending on your taste. Not everyone likes certain styles, but for me specifically, I always think Toce has killed it with the styling choices. I think some bikes though, like the older bikes, some of the Toce exhausts come out from like the rear. That honestly I don't like. I think it looks a little goofy. But I do like the side exit, you know, so if that's kind of your taste, I definitely would suggest that. Next up, I want to talk about quality. So for the most part, this exhaust is built really well. It is made, I believe, with aluminum, and then the welds are stainless steel, so it's very lightweight and strong. Now, I don't know too much about the science, but this exhaust does have a kind of metallic kind of sound to it, which I personally like. It's a little bit raspy, so I don't know if the aluminum aspect is helping with that kind of noise, but it is made out of aluminum, so it's very, you know, strong and lightweight. Probably not as strong as stainless steel, but I mean, this bike is not getting that hot to the point where these pipes are going to burst. The muffler tip, they never specified what material, but I'm assuming it's also made out of aluminum, but it's been powder coated black. And this is actually their standard versions. They do have an option where you can get the actual header and mid pipe area powder coated black to give you a more stealth and sleek look. I just opted for the basic one, mainly for cost reasons, but there is still a bonus as to why I do suggest getting the powder coated version, and it's less to do about the style but more so for the reliability or just the quality aspect. So kind of building on the whole quality part, because these are just exposed metal piping, it does get rusty. So I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but there is like some marks on here kind of all the way through, some burn marks a little bit, some rust marks and whatnot. So definitely you will notice some wear and tear, you know, just by leaving your bike outdoors, especially because I don't have a garage right now. This bike pretty much sits in all the weather when it's outside, so your pipe does get rusty, you know, and it does kind of look janky. If that does happen to you, it's not the end of the world. You can always polish it to kind of bring it back to life. But if you were to get the powder coated version, it'll pretty much look like how this looks, and it doesn't really show any rust. It doesn't really get dirty. A lot of the imperfections tend to get, you know, covered up because it's black, and that coating does cost, I believe, another $250. So that's going to segue us to the price aspect. Oh, before we talk about price, one more thing I forgot. There's actually an exhaust bracket down here that came loose. There's a bolt that fell out, and now it's just kind of hanging there. It doesn't affect the exhaust itself because the rest of the exhaust is clamped on really tightly from the springs, but there is an exhaust clamp down here where the bolt fell loose. I haven't seen anyone have that issue. I think I'm like the only person. I don't know if I just didn't tighten it when I installed the exhaust, but it did fall off pretty early on when I got the exhaust, so maybe it could be an issue. I don't know if it's a defect. I did reach out to Toce. They haven't really gotten back to me about any solution. They don't even sell that part as a replacement, so basically if you lose that bolt, you just lose it. You would have to just go find your own bolt and clamp it on there, but personally it's not a big deal because it doesn't affect the exhaust in any way, shape, or form. But that is just something I noticed, that the exhaust clamp did come loose and the bolt fell out. But like I said, I can't blame the company because I feel like potentially it was my personal error for maybe not tightening it down all the way. Now, the thing I kind of feel a little iffy about is the price. This exhaust is very expensive compared to the other options out there. This thing alone goes for like $1,000 or $1,100 just for the base version, for the full system. And if you were to opt for the powder coated version, that's going to be like another $250. So you're spending $1,300 to $1,400. It's expensive, you know, I can't lie about that. And even for me, like, that is a lot to shell out. And to say that it's worth the price, you know, it really varies person to person. Personally, I would still go for that price and get this exhaust just because I just love it that much. I really want this razor tip design. But yeah, I feel like that is something to consider. If you do like the Toce exhaust, you do have to shell out extra money for it, because if you can get a really nice exhaust from SC Project for like $700-800 and it performs exactly the way, you know, this one performs, if anything, the SC Project sounds more sportier, so if that's what you're looking for, you can always get that version. So I feel like it really just boils down to just style at that point, because most of these exhausts, they all sound very similar. They all have similar performance. It just comes down to the brand and the style. So it really just depends, you know, like, do you want to shell out that kind of money to get this look of this razor tip? You know, obviously for me, I found it to be worth it because I clearly bought it and put it on my bike. Overall, it's been one whole year or a little bit more than a year, and I gotta say that this exhaust has served me well, and I definitely would opt for this exhaust again. You know, I really have no major complaints about it besides just the volume, but that's kind of all the exhaust. It's just not a super loud bike to start with, and I gotta say it's one of the more unique exhausts. You know, it sounds very grunty, and other exhausts don't have that kind of note, let alone this kind of look to the muffler tip. So yeah, hopefully this video kind of gives you an idea of how I feel about it. I think it's great. Just some little things I wish was a little better, like volume and probably just pricing. You know, I don't really have any complaints. I think this exhaust is pretty sick. The quality is nice. The fitment is perfect. Everything lined up exactly how it was. And if you guys want to see the installation, I'll put the video in the description below because it was very straightforward. I think any beginner can install this by yourself. You don't need to take it to the shop. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and a comment below. It's been your boy RickyMoto, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.